Hi everyone, so this is just a quick, well hopefully quick video on how to sort out your Virtus knee ratchets if you have the problem that I did, which is that they were off centre, so he could only have his knees in, well, either two. I showed it in my main video, watch it there if you like. It's about the 54-minute 32-second mark I think, where they're off centre. I won't go into it in too much detail here. If you do have that problem, it can be resolved, but I've done both of my legs, and you can see now that he actually stands vertically correct. There's a vertical line through the leg from the hip down to the foot, whereas before it was either like that or pushed forward, and I can't even push it forward now, which is how it should be. This leg went fine, and when I put it back together, there's not much of a seam, and it's not terribly wobbly on the mushroom peg in there. However, the left leg's proven to be a little bit more of a pain. It's a lot more wobbly on the mushroom peg, and there's more of a seam in the leg, and I don't really know why, because they've been put back together exactly the same. So I thought I'd disassemble it and have another look, because I'm a masochist, and I thought I'd actually do it on camera just to see if I could assist people who may have the problem. So this could go spectacularly wrong, but we'll see. It is a real pain to do, I will say, trying to get the leg put back together. For some reason it's just not, it doesn't want to go back together very well, which I imagine is probably why this was messed up at the factory to begin with, if indeed it was messed up and they haven't just done it like this because it's a design issue along with some of the other design issues. Right, anyway, it's made harder because of the weight of the die cast in the foot, trying to get everything to align, and it's just not an easy process. There are some bits in here which can spring out, ironically, Springer and all that. So just be careful when you're taking these thigh sections apart. You want to pop this bit off and just put that to one side for a bit. It's weird because I can't actually see anything in here that could account for why the ratchets are misaligned, or why doing this corrects it, but obviously it has on the other leg, and on this leg actually, just it wasn't tight enough, and I don't really know why this doesn't push back in properly. Anyway, what you have to do, I'll just take this off. Obviously make sure you don't lose anything. The spring is the thing that goes. There's obviously a ratchet piece in here which is notched, which you can see. That won't go anywhere, hopefully. And I think this is part of the reason why it's a pain to put back together. There's obviously another gear on there which is notched as well, and I don't think, I did move that on one leg, it didn't seem to make any difference. As you can see, this is quite loose on there, but what I've been doing, I will take it off actually just to show you. Be careful, because there's this little grey piece of plastic in there which supports the notch, and it only goes in one way, which is to say that you have to have the flat part of it. Is that showing up? It's kind of like a little C-clamp shape. Excuse my fingers and my terrible nails, I need to cut them. But it only goes in one way, so you just pop that back in like that. He says, come on, back you go. And I don't think it makes any difference. Actually, I'll take it out again. There's a slightly uneven, like there's a bit of a notch on it, as you can see at the back, and there's a bit of a difference between the length, like it's I don't think I can see that at all. What I'm trying to point out is this plastic lip on the top isn't entirely central. There's a slightly wider gap on one side. I don't think that makes any difference. I could be wrong. Maybe that's what accounted for the sort of extra play in the joint when I put it back together. Who knows? Anyway, this bit needs to be in there. When I first did this last night, that sprung off. I couldn't. Oh, it looks like it will only go in one way actually. It won't go in the other way. So yeah, it's pretty obvious which way it goes because it is notched to allow it to go in. This, as I said, this did spring off, and I spent about 10 minutes looking for it on the floor. So I'm doing it in a much better space for this video. What I've done to try and make it easier, because of the weight, is when I put this back on, I put my finger there. Let me just move the camera down a bit because we're going to be looking at the lower extremities of the figure. I kind of get the hip skirts out of the way and move this leg out to give me more room. And then when I put this back on the joint, I hold the grey plastic piece so it doesn't pop out. Lesson learned. and it will only go back onto this one way because there's obviously a notch in the leg. You basically push it back on. Now I'm doing it on camera. It's trouble trying to do this on camera and trying to do it at all because of the weight of the figure is a pain. But it will only go on one way. And it just doesn't want to go on at all at the moment. Come on. Excuse me. Why does this stuff always work until you go and go to demonstrate it? Then it just doesn't want to know, does it? This is what happens. See, just check I've got that on the right bit before I try and force it on. Why is that not working? Oh, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, I'm just being an absolute moron. Let me put this back in. I have got the orientation. I forgot I switched the orientation of the leg, didn't I? So it actually goes on that way. Aha. That'd be why it wasn't going on. Right, that goes back on like that, and then I hold that so it doesn't pop out, and then I click that all the way in. So it's, because obviously there's a sliding mechanism, and that's where it would sit normally, but when you're sliding the leg, it goes all the way in like that for alt mode, but it just makes it easier to put the leg back on, I've found. Speaking of such, this is obviously the foot. This is a pain for a number of reasons. Chiefly that this is heavy, so trying to hold this and get this, you want to put the gear in and get it to engage, but because the spring's there, it pushes the gear out so it doesn't lock properly. But you want to do that, you want to get that over, and then you want to hold that in so that the leg is sitting. I mean, you make sure that it's not too far forward or too far back, so that it's in the correct place for where it should be vertically. Then, and this is where I've had the problem, still trying to hold this in place, which is no small feat. You need to get this back on, and it, for some reason, and I don't know why, it doesn't seem to like going on very flush. Oh, that might have gone better this time. Anyway, right, this is the moment of truth. Trying to hold this together. Oh, for God's sake, this is where you need an extra pair of hands for these things. Because you need to try and maintain pressure while you get the screw in. And I think actually it might be easier holding it upright like this, because it takes some of the pressure off. But you want to get some purchase, obviously. And the problem is there's obviously, I don't want to thread it. That's the other big issue with doing this, is you really don't want to, and it feels like it is. It feels like that's not going back in where it should. And the last thing I want to do is strip the plastic inside, because that would be really bad. That's better. Right, okay, that now is going back in. So that's there, like that. Then I need to try and get, sorry, I'm probably covering the bit you need to see, aren't I? But I imagine you can use your imagination as to what it looks like with a screw going into a hole, can't you? So yeah, this is the second bit, and again, pain to try and get the screw in there. Come on, where are you? Excuse me, I'm just going to do this off camera. It's trying to hold everything together and get the screw on. It's the pain. Right, that leg joint actually looks like the seam's a bit better this time. And I'm just going to tighten that back up. It doesn't take a huge amount, and you don't want to over tighten it. And it doesn't look like the knee's loose. Right, there you go. I'm very careful not to push it too much to crack the inner stuff. And I think, yeah, I think maybe this one's just a bit looser, because look, that's on there. There's not really much of a seam. I don't think there's too much of a seam anyway. Yet, comparing the two legs, there's more play on that than there is on that one. And I don't really know why. Maybe it's just a thing. There is slightly more of a seam on the left one than the right one, but maybe it's just a tolerance thing. Obviously, I don't really remember what it was like beforehand. So it's difficult for me to say, oh yeah, it was like that before I did this mod. I don't think it is. It's not a massive issue. I mean, there's certainly nowhere else for this leg to go. Like, I can't see how it could be, how it could have got loose, because it's just around a mushroom peg. So anyway, you'll see that the end result is that when it's done, on both sides now, that knee, it can't go any further forward, and it just clicks normally backwards like that. And you have that straight through vertical line. Although he does lean backwards, that's the problem. But at least it now means that he does stand relatively straight instead of being, you know, too far backwards or too far forwards, which used to bug the hell out of me. But yeah, he's not a very good figure in terms of standing straight anyway. But I don't know. I mean, maybe there was a reason X-Transbots did that, so that they were off center. I can't for the life of me think of a good reason why they would have done it. And it seems to be, you know, it seems to look better. Well, aesthetically, it looks better to me anyway, that he's like that. I mean, maybe they did it because he does lean so far back. They were trying to counterbalance it so that you had to have the figure leaning forward to get him up straight. But he is by and large now still straight, and there is a nice through line, vertical line on the legs. So anyway, that's that. That's what I did. Do it at your own risk, obviously. I accept no responsibility for lost springs or plastic or other bits. But yeah, I thought it might just help someone somewhere out there if you had the same issue. I don't know if this was unique to mine or, you know, to a few, or whether this is by design, but I didn't like it and I thought I'd do something about it. So let me know in the comments if you actually do have this problem or whether I just made it up entirely. Anyway, thanks for watching, and hopefully this has been of some help, and I'll catch you in another full review sometime soon.